Hello, everybody. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Namaskar. I'm your host, Akriti Anand. And guys, what a powerful session it was. So many thoughtful initiatives taken by the Delhi government for all of us, the entrepreneurs, the startups. Yes, guys, this is our era. The government of India is now thinking about all of us, and they are coming forward with many initiatives to ease the process of starting your business. We are at the world's largest global summit, and now this year, amidst the pandemic, when we have to pivot a lot, we have to come up with new things and new initiatives to find opportunity. That's when we also decided to go virtual. This is TI Global Summit 2020, hosted by the Hyderabad chapter, redefining entrepreneurship in the new world. The summit, which is designed for the entrepreneurs, by the entrepreneurs, where we have seen many bright minds from the industry come together, where we have dissected entrepreneurship from various perspectives, be it financial, organizational, political, emotional, interpersonal, technical, and any other perspective that you can think of. Yesterday we had some amazing sessions. Sri Ravi Shankar Gurudev came live with us on Thai Global Summit. Today, just now, we witnessed the Chief Minister of the capital of India, Mr. Kejriwal, come live. And up next is again a very interesting session which is coming up. But before I announce the session, I want to tell you a little bit more about the summit where you are. We have 40,000 plus registration, over 350 speakers, 20,000 plus startups from across 25 nations, 135 plus investors, almost 100 plus large companies coming together at the marketplace. Guys, this is your place. I hope you have gone and networked with a lot of people. We curated, Thai specially curated networking sessions for all of us, wherein we can go make connects, find the right partners, find the right mentors, incubators, and many other people which are required to make your business a success. Now it's time to go global and look at the future of the country, which is making waves over and over again. Thai Global Summit 2020 aims to address the need of the global entrepreneur and foster entrepreneurship by nurturing your ideas, help you gain the access to the customers, investors, mentors, board members through this 3 days. 3 days Maha Summit. I would not be wrong if I would say that the brightest minds from all over the world have come together. And up next, also, we have a very special and a brilliant session that's coming up. And if I have the permission to announce, I would do that. But on the mark, when Saurabh will tell me. In the meantime, guys, I want all of you.
Hello, Jake.
Yeah.
Okay. In the meantime, I want all of you to write one thing that you have learned out of the 1.5 day journey that we have already covered. So you write your one learning in the chat box, and now I'm announcing the next session, which we all are waiting for. This session is all about getting ahead in the cloud, in the business. What will it take for the business, startups, or enterprise to get ahead with and in the cloud? The panel cannot get more complete than this. On the grand panel, we have Mr. Anant Maheshwari, President of Microsoft India, Rahul Sharma, President of WWPS India and South Asia, AWS. We have Karan Bajwa, MD, Google Cloud, Ajay Prakash Swahe, Secretary, MITI, and moderating the session is none other than the Thai Hyderabad President, CMD, Cloud 4C, and Control S, Mr. Sridhar Punapureddy. Mr. Sridhar, now it's over to you. Welcome, panel.
Hello all. Welcome back again to Another very, very interesting session. Why is it rejected? Why should
Sorry, either it may be just me, but the audio is a little muted
Yeah,
coming from your
same.
end.
I can't hear as well, Anand. Same.
okay?
So your audio mic might be an issue.
Okay. Hello, all. Is that okay?
Better.
Good.
Yes. Oh, we are doing a mic testing in front of everyone. Sorry, Ajay. Yeah. Yeah. Hello, all. Welcome back again. We have the most eminent panel Indian cloud industry can ever get together. Uh, and we also have the uh, Ajay, Ajay Sahani, Secretary, Government of India, Ministry of Information Technology. We have got head of Microsoft, and we have got current head of Google for India. The captains of the industry and government have all assembled here today to discuss about cloud. Let me ask you all, ladies and gentlemen, one question. Why do you need to know about this industry? Just think about it. We're just going through a pandemic, right? We're not over yet. Imagine the pandemic without cloud. Would we be able to run the schools the way that we are running today? No. Would we have been able to run our offices? Imagine 5 years ago, if this pandemic would have struck us and where the cloud was still at an infancy stage, something would have happened. Similar pandemic would have happened. Today, stock market would have been 70% down. We are almost back to normal, except personal freedom. I think all most of the businesses, except travel related, except some industries, everything else is back to normal. That is because of cloud, and that's not the only reason why you should know about cloud. It is almost 81% of the organizations have already adopted cloud. 81% of the organizations. Another important metric, 2.4 lakh jobs will be created by the public cloud industry alone by 2023. And if you see, these jobs will also impact another 7.43 lakh jobs through the second order effects. This is within the 4 years from 19 to 23. On an annualized basis, this is equivalent to 0.6% of the GDP and 15% of the GDP impact of the IT industry already. It is no more exports, it's the cloud industry which is becoming. And then if you compare one of the oldest industries, textile, we are already at 25% of the industry. So no matter where you are, what you do, whether you are a upcoming entrepreneur or established businessman, even if you are doing agriculture, no matter what may, you need to know about the cloud. That's the reason why we have assembled a grand panel here today. But before we go into the details of the things, I want to ask you some very serious questions, okay? Listen carefully, very, very serious questions. We have one gentleman here who loves Kerala and Bengali cuisines. He loves food. Who do you think he is? Take a guess. I know whom you're all guessing, but you're wrong. The biggest foodie we have here is the thinnest person, who's Anant Maheshwari from Microsoft. Not only that, he loves Guns and Roses, not real Guns and Real Roses, but his favorite songs are from Guns and Roses. Okay, and we also have Karan. By the way, we dug up a lot about you all. Okay, and we have a very efficient research team. And we also have one gentleman who enjoys the Bollywood movies. And he tried taking up golf, but he was not successful. Ah, guess who he is? I know the golfer looking, our IT secretary, but no, it is Karan Bajwa, MD of Google Cloud. Good to have you here, Karan. And, you know, if there is one gentleman, I mean, my research team is so good that they could pick up anyone's life. There is one man who could, no matter what may, I've been struggling. So that's the reason why, Ajay, I want to talk to you and try to guess something. And he was so busy today with many things happening, that he couldn't find a few minutes. Otherwise, probably I would have guessed something. We have Ajay Sahani here, Ajay Prakash Sahani. I mean, everything good about him. I mean, nothing personal come about anywhere, Ajay. I think, looks like your ministry is really helping you keep completely private. And we hope you share some of your personal life today as well. But he has done amazing work, especially in IT industry. He was from my home state. He's the epic cadre man. Ajay, if you remember, I used to meet you when you were 20 years ago almost.
Yes.
Yes, I've tried my level best to convince you. Look, I am the guy who could develop the applications, but I know that due to whatsoever may be the reasons, I could make you my client. But we kept on meeting, and it's so good to see you again, Ajay. Thank you
Nice
for
to
taking
see you.
time out. He's worked his whole life in IT industry. And as a head of triple IT, I remember the kind of initiatives that you took. You brought the whole industry, investments, and the whole of Hyderabad is become IT city, and the team, the 2, 3 people who worked closely with the then Chief Minister, Mr. Naidu, Ajay is one of the team members there. Thank you, Ajay, for your contribution so far, and it's great to have you here.
Thank
So
you. Thank you for inviting me in.
we'll start with you, Ajay. Uh, your perspective, cloud, government of India's perspective. Where do you see it, where we are, and where we are going for?
Yeah, I think we started long back with a cloud first kind of policy, all kinds of guidelines issued to the departments that let's no longer look at separate acquisition of servers and setting up your own thing. And this happened, I think, almost more than 10 years ago, and it's been the Meghraj Cloud Initiative, which has been supported by our helping state governments to set up data centers at the state level. Then national data centers, there are 4 of them, and we are continuing to set up more of them. Uh, Even now, a few applications we still believe need to be in the national data centers, in the government's owned and operated part of the cloud. And then we have also actually moved forward quite aggressively with the empanelment of the cloud service providers, and around 13 companies were there in the very first round, and then I think we are continuing to add service providers. And so we are actually looking at cloud first policy as a kind of a very strong guideline for everyone, and put together what we have assembled. Earlier it was necessary to have, for instance, state data centers, because the states would not have had the confidence to sort of entrust what they consider their crown jewels to someone else somewhere else. But I think as the technology has progressed, uh, the contours of the entire industry are becoming clearer, and it's clearer to not just the government, also to the industry, as to how you can sort of keep your data in a highly usable manner, and yet keep the highest forms of security alive, highest forms of confidentiality and privacy alive, even while using the different formats in which cloud services are available. And I would like to strongly, support what you mentioned uh, about the COVID crisis. And I think it's unthinkable, without, on one hand, the cloud-based services, and on the other hand, the widespread availability of broadband, access to 4G, length and breadth of the country. These two, I think, have played a phenomenal role. And my reading is that at the height of the lockdown, and lockdown was exceptionally stringent in India. At the height of the lockdown, the IT industry tells us that just 2 to 3% of the employees were actually, they took e-passes and actually came to the office just to keep the infrastructure, just to keep the services running. And 97 to 98% of the employees were working from home, and the industry has not allowed a setback to happen to the services delivered to global clients. In spite of 97, 98% of the people working from home, and these are marquee clients, these are the best in the world. And so keeping that, I think it's a phenomenal achievement. Within government also, we somehow we had the systems in place, we were not using them thoroughly. But the moment this crisis struck and we had the lockdown, within 48 hours we had enabled all the senior officers, at least in Government of India, to be able to work completely from home, all complete switch over. I think if it were not for this crisis, it would have taken us years to get to that point. And today I think work from home is actually the norm, and thanks to cloud. And I am so happy that Anant and Karan Bajwaji are here, because I am after them to sort of, they are already very ambitious in their plans for India and investments for India. I have a very small ask. I don't ask much. I don't ask for much. I am only asking for zero more, zero to be added. A zero is nothing for these two gentlemen. So whatever they have planned, I'm my just one single ask. Just add a zero, and then we are then we are ready to talk.
That's amazing. Okay, Anant, over to you. Are you ready to add a zero?
So let me just first of all thank Sridhar for inviting me to this panel. I completely agree with you. It's great to be with these leaders and learn in this session. So thank you so much for inviting me. I was just hoping that you asked me to go after Mr. Sani and not before, because it's very difficult to then kind of predict, because he's always has a very clear direction and ambition. So I'm glad that he's kind of set the marker very, very clearly what the ambition is. So first up, I would say echo that. I think first, as you said, Sridhar, 81% of the enterprises, as you said, or more than 80% of the enterprises, large enterprises especially, are already onto the cloud. But the additional fact there is that if you look at both the global numbers of the opportunity and where it will go, and even India, less than 10% of penetration has really happened with the cloud. So if you really look at it, there is a massive capability to be created and massive movement to happen over a period of time. And COVID has definitely accelerated that momentum. In the last 8 months, we've seen a lot of that transition happen, and that, as Mr. Sani said, wouldn't have happened for a long, long time to come. As far as what it takes for companies to be in the cloud, and also for the government. And as we were just speaking about it, I'll maybe just give you a perspective the way we think about any business, and it's a very simple equation that we use to define how every business is a tech business and a software business and a cloud business. So the simple equation, and Satya had illustrated this a couple of years back. The equation is very simple, that every business has to have tech intensity. And tech intensity is a product of what platforms you choose and what unique capability you build on top of it, which is your own IP. And therefore that kind of becomes the best analogy I would take, since you called me a foodie a while back. The best analogy I would take is, you can take the core ingredients that are readily available. That's kind of the platform that you can pick up, and then you add your own sort of spices to it and your own method to it, and you make something out of it that is totally uniquely yours. And when you make that dish as a company, you also need to have, in today's world, as Mr. Sani really called out, the combination of trust, inclusion, and sustainability. Because if you don't have trust, inclusion, and sustainability, this dish will not be palatable to a lot of people. Even though it may taste good to some, but you need to, if you really need to make it work for everybody, then trust, inclusion, and sustainability is very critical. So that's how I would convert the cloud industry to maybe the analogy of what you gave me, and I wasn't prepared for that to be called on the food. You're right on the foodie bit, but that's the way I'll relate it. And lastly, let me come to the point that Mr. Sani made around the investments and the way we think about the country, and there are 2 or 3 zeros that I would talk about, and not just one, Mr. Sani. The first zero that I think we have to print, and there has to be multiple zeros, is on the talent. Because I know you're passionate about it, in creating the cloud skills in the country. Sridhar talked about the fact that so many more jobs will be created. We need skilled people for those jobs, and that's the first place where we need to add zeros, because that is critical for our country, and that makes us both self-sufficient, Atmanirbhar, but it also makes us a global superpower when it comes to tech skills, and that, I think, is a unique opportunity that India uniquely possesses. The second set of zeros that I think we should talk about is our large SMB sector. Because we can talk about the large companies and 80% of them being on the cloud, but what about the 70 million companies who we call as SMBs, and how do we bring them to use cloud solutions? And many zeros are needed to support that. And to support those two is the infrastructure, the zero that you asked for. And that I can at least assure, and I'm sure that Karan would echo the same, is that India is a very priority focus for the cloud providers globally. Microsoft is definitely one of them. And Mr. Sani, you know about Microsoft's history in India, because you have the credit, as Sridhar originally said, in Hyderabad, to bring Microsoft to Hyderabad in the first place, and create the first step there. And since then, I think we've been continuously investing. But I have to say, in the last 3 or 4 years, with the cloud investments, it has just changed. The trajectory of our investments has changed in the country. And especially in the last 6-8 months, we saw that really multiply as we went to continuously aid and support the growth of the country on the cloud. So that's where I would say I definitely feel that India is so well positioned to drive entrepreneurship, to drive jobs, to drive new capabilities, not just for its own use, but for the world. Thank you, Sridhar. Back to you.
Pleasure. Over to Karan and the zero.
All right, I'll come back to the zeros in a minute, but absolutely echo what Anand said. Look, I think if you look at these last 10 months and what has happened with all of us, the pandemic has been extremely unfortunate. There's no questions about it. But the pandemic will also be counted as a very defining moment on many fronts. And when history shall be written, I think technology shall be one of those areas where the pandemic shall be counted as a defining moment. There were so many barriers that people had perceived about the use of technology, or let's talk about specifically the cloud, We used to go talk to the customers and enterprises across all verticals, and there were still doubts about security, total cost of ownership, what's the benefit, should I not, is it private, is it public, is it hybrid? There were so many questions. I think the one thing that's changed is a lot of those questions have gone away. Everyone now realizes that the technology is heading in a certain direction, and the right way to do it is to define what your journey to the cloud shall be. One of my eye-opening moments was I was speaking to the CEO of a financial services, actually an insurance company, and she made a point and said, "We are 100% paperless now." And I turned around and said, "Would you have done that 10 months ago?" She said, "Absolutely not." They've been trying it for years. They could never get around to doing that. There was resistance. There were all kinds of reasons given. And finally, all the reasons were taken away in a jiffy. And within a few weeks, they went 100% paperless. So, which means technology was not the issue. So, in that sense, the pandemic, howsoever unfortunate, and I wish and hope we come out of it very soon, has been a defining moment in the history of the technology industry and shall be counted as one of the big moments that the technology transition has happened. Now, coming to the zeros, obviously, Mr. Sani is very close to all of the investments that the IT industry has been making. We've made a very bold investment very recently when our CEO Sundar Pichai announced a $10 billion investment for the India Development Fund focused on digitization and adding and accelerating digitization for India. And we are well on our way to with those investments. But again, I think there's a bigger play here in my view. Look, India, as if you look at the IT services market in India, India and the Indian IT industry has done a fabulous job over the last 20-25 years, setting up a $200 billion IT services industry. I believe, and I'm very convinced, that India is on the absolute threshold of another major IT revolution, where India now has the opportunity to change the game. And from IT services, we have a few opportunities. We could be the SaaS capital for the world, we could be the AI capital of the world, we could be the cloud capital of the world. And a lot has to do with skills. And Anand did mention that we have to go through a massive reskilling and upskilling across the whole country. And I would turn back for one more zero from Mr. Sani actually and say the government actually has a massive role to play in this. If the government, with the scale it has, becomes a mass scale user of AI, machine learning, cloud, and name it, I think we can fundamentally change the pace at which we can accelerate the adoption and hence the talent in this country. So many zeros to add to this conversation. And but it's I look forward to great times ahead. I wish we come out of this very fast, and it's going to be a different world from here onwards, Sridhar.
Ajay, your zeros are becoming balls and coming back. Hitting back at you. So, yes, it is true, Ajay, that number one inhibitor of cloud adoption is the talent gap, number one. And then comes the financial outages, breaches, security, etc. But the number one is the skill gap. That's the industry has identified. Balls are in your court, sir. I'm sure. Are you?
I think on talent is something that I think we do recognize the need to ramp up what we have and give them the competencies required for the latest job roles. And this is one area that we are exceptionally serious about. In fact, we've been setting up national public digital platforms, and one that I'm particularly enthusiastic about is the Future Skills platform and the Future Skills Prime that we have launched as a beta very recently. Now, this is an effort which was actually initially done by the Indian IT industry for itself. But major companies came together and recognizing the need for skilling in and competency, building competencies in advanced data analytics, in all kinds of competencies required for AI, for blockchain, for cloud-based cloud computing and sort of cloud services, cybersecurity, and various other additive manufacturing and others. The industry had come together and NASSCOM had helped them along to create a platform for upskilling, reskilling a large number of persons who were working with those companies. These are some of the best companies in the country. We have joined up that effort, and we are trying to bring the same resources and make them available to people who are outside. In this, the advantage is that the industry has defined 155 job roles across these sectors and the competencies required for those job roles. And this particular platform provides us exceptionally good resources to help people choose which path they would take. There are multiple pathways, and to get to those competency levels, including a certification which is internationally recognized. I think that's a huge effort. I am told that I think it's more than 10 lakh already in case of Future Skills, and Future Skills Prime we started just recently, and we are notching up very good numbers. People are coming in and it is as if they were waiting for something like this to be available. So, and this one will be supported by IITs, triple ITs, NITs, and centers across the country for hybrid, for giving it a hybrid kind of avatar. So I am very upbeat about the skilling and the sort of availability of talent. In fact, so much so that we characterize India the way Israel characterizes itself as a startup nation. I think we must characterize India as a digital talent nation. And that is the direction, that has been our strength all along. And that continues to be our strength. We are very cognizant of it, and we are determined to make sure that the right human resource is always available.
Sridhar, if I may come in just on this point, since this was the first zero that I spoke of and a few zeros, and I know I'm completely echo.
I mentioned the ball's going.
Yeah, echo what Mr. Sani said about Future Skills, and very passionate from NASSCOM as well as the Future Skills Prime that's done with the sponsorship of METI in making that happen. So I think just that aim of Future Skills and Future Skills Prime to drive millions of students in digital skilling, that definitely is one. I think there are other aspects that I would like to again build on, because Mr. Sani personally has sponsored many of them. The second one is the Cyber Surakshat Bharat, which was a big initiative that was done over the last couple of years, because I think one is digital skilling, but also skills around safety and security, which again we did it in partnership, and that's focused on skilling the government and the officers and the government employees a lot more in driving their digital skills and cybersecurity skills, and also with another layer with the National Skills Development Corporation (NSDC) to drive digital skills to youth. Now, those are very different players that you go with in terms of looking at the population much more holistically and driving it all. And this is something that I think is recognized at the global level, and that's something that both Satya Nadella and the leaders at different parts of Microsoft announced roughly about 4 or 5 months back, is a global initiative to skill 25 million people with the new capabilities and get them jobs, because with the power of LinkedIn, with GitHub and different parts of Microsoft coming together, and that, to me, India will be a big beneficiary of what we're doing globally, which is part of the whole future skills capabilities also coming through. So I completely believe that skilling is such a momentum that we have created during the COVID timeframe, that we should not let that momentum go, because that itself will push a lot of the entrepreneurship, and which is so important to tie to really see the entrepreneurs really coming up and solving problems both for the country and the world.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Karan, I will start a new question. Let's play a new game now.
Sure.
Uh, yeah. What is the future that you see uh, for a cloud computing industry and all, including next set of technologies on cloud?
Sure. If I could, if you would ask me to answer in one line or two words, I would have said the future of the cloud computing industry is multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. But let me step back. Let's just chart out and see how has this evolved before we talk about where will this go. Roll back a few years. I call it the whole, for simplistic way, let's call it the virtual machine cloud era. This is a period in time when companies like startups, many of whom are now SaaS leaders of today, they recognized that they could actually forego buying or operating hardware, building from the beginning, right from the cloud. This became a standard for most startups, and by the end of that era, we saw that change happen. There were a couple of leaders in that era who are pretty well known in lifting and shifting existing workloads to the cloud. Then came what we've been experiencing for the last, let's say, about 8 to 10 years, which was a recognition by the traditional businesses, the classic enterprises as we call them, of the advantages of migrating their IT infrastructure to the cloud. Let's again simply call this the infrastructure cloud era, where servers, data storage, old school email, calendar sharing all moved to the cloud. And while this was great at driving cost efficiencies, it really looked like business as usual, just business as usual in the cloud instead. Cloud service providers of this era were great at offering a set of tools for building kind of net new applications in the cloud. But I think we are at a moment in time in our history when everything changes. And that's kind of the moment in the fundamentals of business, have completely changed, as some of us shared earlier by the pandemic. And companies understand that business as usual in the cloud is not good enough. There's got to be more coming from the cloud, and that is the moment that has catalyzed an acceleration into what, let's call it now, the transformation cloud era. And that's what really I see going forward, when businesses will fundamentally transform with the use of cloud capability versus run their business on the cloud. Let me now come back to the point on multi and hybrid. If you see the nature of enterprise IT, it can be pretty rigid, complex, expensive. When we talk to customers with extensive on premise investments today, they tell us that they want to take advantage of the cloud scalability, the innovative services, the geographic scope, if you will, but they're very worried about getting locked in with one provider. So, why do they ask? Is it that we cannot write once and run anywhere? The idea of really turning the whole multi-cloud computing into an extended version of a single cloud platform, it offers many benefits to a customer. From a user's perspective, this really becomes kind of a meta platform concept, if you will, providing consistent ways to access your applications across multiple platforms, literally through a single interface. So that's kind of the ease for the customer. Um, Setting up something that is interoperable across various platforms is really non-trivial, Sridhar, to say the least. We've been working very hard to solve this problem. Some of the recent announcements that we've made in this space with our capability on Anthos and BigQuery, etc., are exactly going in that direction, where we are pulling together a hybrid cloud capability, bringing the capabilities of a hyperscale public cloud on premise, and then allowing you to run workloads in a multi-cloud environment, managing through a single interface. I believe that's where really the cloud is going. There's one more interesting relevance that I'm seeing, which is organizations with strong edge presence. Think about retailers who are operating brick and mortar stores, transportation companies managing fleets of vehicles, manufacturing companies who rely on IoT enabled equipment on shop floors. For such organizations, edge presence with the cloud is very important. And I see the future moving to a strong partnership with telecommunication companies, which something we very recently announced, to really help these communication providers monetize the edge as a business services platform. So these are few trends that I see in the future where cloud is going. But fundamentally, from a point where you could run your business more efficiently to fundamentally transforming your business, I believe that's the journey for the future with the cloud. Sridhar, back to you.
Amazing. Uh, what you said. We just did a poll, by the way. On the sidelines, there is some polls happening. So we asked the question: what type of cloud strategy is your organization leveraging or considering for the future? Poll result, you're absolutely right. Hybrid cloud is 69%. 69%
Yeah.
is yeah, you're right. Anand, do you agree with that?
I was on mute. I'll just build on what Karan said and add on to it. I completely agree. If you take a technical point of view of the hybrid, then the initial problems that you're solving for, as Karan spoke of, is the where is the data, where is the infrastructure, how do you manage, and therefore the software and the technical challenges of that would be the first layer that you solve for. As you increasingly go down the path of hybrid, there are other very core challenges that companies run into, and two of the biggest amongst them are identity and security, because you've got to figure out the trust aspect across the hybrid, and you've got to figure out how you are interoperable on the identity in different ways across the different platforms that you're using in hybrid, both in terms of multi-cloud as well as on-prem versus the public cloud, as to how do you bring the whole capability together. So to me, trust and security, I would say, are the big game changers that have happened during the COVID time. So if there are two trend lines that have really got accelerated during COVID, and which, irrespective of whichever form of work from anywhere that we come to in about let's say 3 to 6 months from now, when hopefully everything is at least away from our mobility. So to me, the two big trends there. Number one, there is a cloud momentum led by data and AI, and the second one is this very strong appreciation of trust and security and identity. And I'll give you one very quick question that we get continuously in today's world, and especially if there are two people working from home, let's say a couple, both are working and they're operating from home, and let's say you are in the IT industry. One of the biggest questions that a lot of the IT industry folks are asking us, hey, listen, it's very likely that the spouse of my employee is working for my competitor. How do I manage security in that context? So that's a very genuine question, because it's not just about the tech platforms. Then you have to balance that out with privacy, because at the end of the day, you're trying to enable that security in the privacy of somebody's home. So there are lots of issues here that need to be resolved in partnership with users, with full transparency as to how it's to be done, and therefore I would in fact encourage the entrepreneurs listening to this, think about trust and security. Those are amazing opportunities that will open up if you're, and India can lead the world, because this is an absolutely new era, and this is also completely in line with the way government wants this. And Mr. Sani should talk about it, because I've heard him passionately speak about the trust and security aspect, because India can lead that innovation around a trusted and a secure cloud, and as we go forward, leading with data and AI. So that's the other piece I would add to the hybrid conversation. Sorry, Sridhar, you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah. That leads us to the next question around opportunities for entrepreneurs. You now hit the nail. That is what we wanted to hear. Most of the time members would want to hear is, what are the opportunities for the entrepreneurs in this cloud industry, when we see such a huge growth happening in the industry? Where do they look for? Yes, as you rightly said, trust and security be one of the areas where the startups could come up, new amazing technologies. Karan,
Yeah, I think, Sridhar, at a conceptual level, the opportunity for everyone, including the entrepreneurs in today's call, really is to make fundamental changes. Use this time and this transition to make fundamental changes, not incremental changes. That's kind of the one overarching message I would give. If you see today how organizations are accelerating their shift towards digital first models, to meet the changing behavior of their customers in this. I remember we used to go to meet customers. Almost every customer had digital as a part of their strategy. The change that has happened in 10 months is that digital is the strategy now. Banks, for example, have transitioned to remote sales. Service teams are engaging with customers. They've launched a digital outreach to customers to make flexible payment arrangements for whether it is loans, mortgages, etc. But I don't think that's going to be enough. That's good, but good start. But they must also reimagine customer journeys to reduce the friction and accelerate the shift to fundamentally digital engagement channels. So a good start. The moment now is to really fundamentally make a change in that sense. So I would give a few recommendations, if you will. Number one, align your digitization efforts to the changing customer expectations. The opportunity for every businessman, every entrepreneur is when you go back to your offices, think about how would you set up your businesses if you were setting it up today with no knowledge of the past, with no legacy to block you, with no restriction to restrain you from doing something different. How would you reimagine your business if you were setting it up for the first time? That's first. Use very strong data driven tools, insights to improve your performance and operations. We've been speaking for a long time about this, about the use of analytics. Now is the time to really scale that part. Boldly modernize your technology. Whatever stack you use, identify the right stack tools that can support this transition, but modernize your technology platform. And most importantly, coming back to the original thing we started from, accelerate the pace of reskilling and building a very diverse and digitally enabled talent pool in your organization. So I think it will be very important for businesses to invest in adopting new technologies, be it cloud, including modernizing their existing stacks, etc., but also building skills and a mindset to be able to deploy the new tool set, if you will. And how effectively they are willing to make this change and not gravitate back to a convenient old way of doing it is going to be decisive on how companies will grow and survive in the future.
If
Back
I
to you.
may just add on that, Sridhar, I think it's a very valid, and I know this will be really valuable for all the listeners, the entrepreneurs and the budding entrepreneurs, because that's the ecosystem that I think Kai has done a fabulous job of encouraging. I'll first take the broader trend line that is unmistakable at this point in time, and I spoke about it a little while back, but just embellish it with some real facts there. NASSCOM had done this study and it got presented with METI partnership to the highest levels in the government, that data and AI as the two big drivers of the economy in India will add roughly about 450 to 500 billion dollars to the GDP by 2025. That's massive. That's a really massive play that I think is opening up for all the entrepreneurs in the country, and especially with the government now moving in driving with very clear guidance on data. And encouraging AI. Prime Minister has himself spoken so highly about the power of the country in driving the capabilities in AI. So those to me would be the first beacons that I would ask entrepreneurs to look at. The second beacon there, I think, which is now been proven, and I think, Sridhar, you referred to that in your opening comments, India becoming the SaaS capital of the world. To me, that idea is maybe the way to think about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Because if you're creating SaaS companies in India who serve not just the government but the 70 million companies in our own country and are then creating an own ecosystem, it's the equivalent, I would take, of the manufacturing capital that we've called China in the past, and the government has talked about it. India can become the software product SaaS capital of the world at this point in time, and that opens up huge opportunities for export. So you not only serve yourself, but you also become the export engine for the country. So to me, those are the two broad arenas that I would say look for opportunities there, look for the data and AI opportunities, look for the SaaS opportunities, go serve some brilliant needs in the country, because India is great at offering problems that need to be solved. So let's go solve for those problems and then take those solutions to the world. That's the way I would look at the broader entrepreneurship guideline.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are a few areas, digital and cloud. This combination, I see it as the killer combination for companies who are trying to establish. And digital is so big. There is a possibility of at least a few hundred startups. just this combination of digital and automation.
Sorry, Sridhar, the
Yeah.
audio is not coming clearly. Maybe you
Yeah.
need to be closer to the mic.
Paper here. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Yeah. Another one that I see is edge computing. The moment edge computing is good, I always, as an entrepreneur, look for future. So the moment edge computing becomes a full reality, and the host of services required around it, the whole edge ecosystem is not non-existent today. That will become probably one of the biggest opportunities that I see in the coming 5 years or so. Right? IoT services, again, a massive area. Hardly anything has been tapped as of now, and the regular services, cloud health is going to be another major area which is going to come up in the years to come, I guess. And cloudlets, I mean, there are, if you look at, I mean, it's easy to find, Gartner cloud computing, Gartner, articles on cloud computing, etc. But try to visualize, for all those entrepreneurs, try to visualize, right? Each of those new technologies which is coming up requires tens or hundreds of companies, and to kind of tap that and in the whole ecosystem around each of those technology, and that's where lie the opportunities. And so with that, we come to an end of the session. But before we leave, Ajayji, your few words to the industry in
Yeah.
general.
I think first I'll just go back to where we started with the the COVID pandemic, and just want to highlight what many of you might have read, but draw your attention to it again. Arogya Setu app got built in 21 days. In the next 13 days after it got released, it hit 50 million downloads. It was the fastest ever across the world. In 40 days, it hit 100 million downloads. And it took about four months and 10 days for it to get to 150 million downloads. Now that, I think, would simply not have been possible without the cloud infrastructure and the kind of services and the kind of accessibility that we have. So this actually is also the kind of talent that came together and made it happen. It was just a scratch team of about 15 guys from the industry and another 4 or 5 joining in from the government. And 21 days is all that it took them to create this kind of an app that could hit such amazing numbers. That points to the talent which is there. And I can tell you, I have interacted with all of them. They are particularly very bright youngsters. But I can tell you that I can find 10,000 such teams in India any time. No different from the team that did Arogya Setu. That is the talent that exists here. And the opportunities that are getting created with data and AI. We are just about to come out with the implementation plan for AI, the national program on AI. And, the national public digital platforms. I'll not get an opportunity now, but I think look up what we are doing with the National Digital Health Mission and what we have already done with Aadhaar and UPI, the kind of scorching pace of growth that this has set. I think these give us the confidence that this is the place to be in. SaaS will happen significantly from India, and it will be fueled by cloud-based services. We are also supported by a huge momentum today in rebuilding our electronics ecosystem. So I expect that as we move forward, it will not just be software products, it will be digital products that get designed, get manufactured in India and serve not only the huge Indian market, but are designed to serve cross the borders and serve everyone else. So that's the hope that we are looking at, and I think we once again my compliments to the the cloud services sector, and Sridhar, I expect a couple of zeros to come from your side as well. So you're forgetting that you are the one who is representing the Indian flag, in this particular area, and you and others who have invested in it and taken the risks, I expect you to add some zeros as well. Thank
We
you.
are, we are adding, Mr. Sani. We are the most, one of the most successful cloud and data center company in India, fastest growing, and as well as have ambitious plan to expand, especially our data center footprint. We started a big 300 megawatt campus now in Bombay, and we're starting one more in Hyderabad as well, equivalent capacity. We're getting into edge computing, going into all the tier two cities of India. Very ambitious plan, and even in cloud computing services, as we all predictions are hybrid cloud services. We not only do a private cloud from our own stable, but also work extensively with Anant and both Karan, and we are their global partners, and we work with them across many other countries as well, not just in India. So because that's what is the industry is going towards, and we hope to be continue to lead, in these services in India, and hope to become number one in the next 2 years.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sridhar, for having
Thank
us
you.
on this panel.
Thank you, Sridhar.
Thank you, Sridhar.
Best
All
wishes.
the best.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.